Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started.
Today, we are stepping entirely away from the theoretical and dropping right into the middle of the danger zone.
The deep end.
The deep end, for sure. We're talking about a world where a single spark doesn't just ruin your day. It can cause an absolute catastrophe. We're talking about a scenario where the air itself might be invisible poison and where a pilot's skill isn't measured by, how cinematic the footage is.
No, not at all. It's almost measured by how boring they can make a crisis appear.
That's a great way to put it.
It creates this fascinating paradox, right? In most drone flying, you want excitement, you want dynamic movement. In this field, excitement usually means you made a huge mistake.
Excitement means something went boom.
Excitement means something went boom.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They were talking about Hazmat, Overwatch, and drone operations. And looking at the stack of research we have today, from operational playbooks to, these intense safety protocols, there is this central tension that I really want to explore. You have the typical view of a drone as this cool flying camera is catching the sunset or doing a real estate flyover. And then you have the reality of a hazardous materials incident.
A completely different world.
A tanker rollover, a chemical plant fire, a rail derailment.
And the entire playbook it gets thrown out the window. It really does. You have to shift your brain from capturing content to chemistry plus consequences.
Chemistry plus consequences. Wow. That's a heavy phrase. It really sets the stakes right out of the gate.
It has to, because the environment you're entering, it's actively hostile. A hazmat scene is delicate. It involves gases, vapors, fragile evidence, terrified people.
And a drone, by its very nature, is a flying mixer.
That's it. It's a fan. It pushes air. So the mission isn't just go see what's happening. The mission is what the experts in our sources call look but don't stir.
Look but don't stir. Okay, that is going to be our mantra for this deep dive. Because if you stir,
you might kill someone. I mean, to put it bluntly. Or you might just ignite the very thing you're trying to film.
So let's map out this minefield. We're going to start by walking through the invisible threats. Understanding why the air at these scenes is what the sources call a stack of hazards.
Yeah, that's a perfect term for it.
Then we're going to look at the gear, specifically why your very expensive drone might actually be a flying bomb. And this concept of the elastic bubble.
Which is, I think, the mental model you absolutely need to survive the shift. If you don't get your head around the bubble, you just shouldn't be flying, period.
Then we'll get into the professionalism aspect, being command ready versus just, camera ready.
The pro versus the amateur.
Exactly. We'll walk through some specific disaster scenarios, like a rail derailment, to see how this all plays out in the real world. And finally, we'll talk about the drone down protocol, basically how to clean up or when you just have to say goodbye to your gear forever.
It's painful, but sometimes necessary. There's a specific way to mourn your robot when it's covered in toxic sludge.
Okay, let's jump into that invisible minefield first. When I read air quality in the notes, I just assumed we were talking about breathing. Is the smoke too thick? Can I see through it?
Right.
But the sources are very clear. Air quality is this complex stack of hazards.
It's a total misconception that air quality is one single metric. People think, I can see clearly, so the air must be fine. And that is so wrong.
So it's not just about visibility.
Not even close. Think of it like a layer cake. You have flammability, you have toxicity, you have oxygen displacement, corrosives, particulates. And the really tricky part is they overlap. You can have air that is perfectly clear, completely odorless, and yet it is moments away from exploding or, melting your lungs.
Let's unpack the flammability part first, because this seems like the most immediate threat to the drone itself. There's this term, LEL, lower explosive limit. I feel like I've seen this on gas meters in movies, but what does it actually mean for a pilot?
Okay, so this is what the pros call the flammability trap. It catches so many people off guard. So the lower explosive limit, or LEL is the absolute minimum concentration of a gas in the air that can ignite. If you are below that limit, the mixture is too lean to burn. There's not enough fuel.
Okay.
And above the upper explosive limit, or UEL, it's too rich. Not enough oxygen to support combustion.
So you need to be in that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone in the middle for a boom.
Exactly. But here is the trap, and this is critical. Field meters, whether they're handheld or on a drone, they often display a percentage of LEL. So a firefighter looks at their meter and it says 10%.
And the natural instinct, my instinct, would be to think, oh, I have 10% gas in the air, or maybe I'm only 10% danger. I have 90% left to go.
Right. You think you're safe. But what 10% LEL actually means is you have reached 10% of the concentration needed to explode.
Oh.
You are 10% of the way to a bomb. And this is the other crucial part, that reading is only accurate at the exact millimeter where the sensor is.
Because the gas isn't uniform. It's not like the air in this room where it's all mixed together.
No, absolutely not. It's not like mixing milk into coffee where it eventually becomes all the same color. Gas stratifies. Heavy gases pool in ditches, lighter ones rise, it swirls with the wind, it gets caught in eddies behind buildings.
So the reading could be completely different just a few feet away.
It could be 100% different. So if your meter says 10% here, 5 feet away in a little pocket of dead air, it could be at 100%, ready to go.
So if you see 10% on the meter, you are effectively already in the danger zone. You're past the point of no return.
You are late. You should have turned around a long, long time ago. 10% is your get out now warning, not your keep exploring permit.
Wow. Okay. And that's just the fire risk. The research also highlights something called TIH, toxic inhalation hazards. This is where the chemistry gets really scary because it's not about things blowing up. It's about biology.
This is the silent killer.
Yeah.
Seriously. Think about things like ammonia, chlorine, hydrogen sulfide. These are common industrial chemicals. These gases can incapacitate or kill you at levels far, far below what would cause an explosion. So you might look at your LEL meter and it says a big fat 0%.
And you think, great, no fire risk, I'm safe.
Meanwhile, you're flying your $1,000 drone right into a cloud of chlorine gas.
And what's the chlorine going to do to the drone? I mean, it's plastic and metal.
Well, chlorine is incredibly corrosive. It's going to attack any exposed metal. It'll corrode the gold plating on the sensors, eat the wiring, and potentially cause a short circuit that brings the drone down. But honestly, the drone is the least of your worries.
Right, because if you were standing there...
If you were standing there, you'd be causing permanent lung damage. And if your drone's downwash pushes that gas toward the responders, you've just injured someone. So a safe fire reading does not mean safe air. Ever.
And then there's the oxygen paradox. I found this part of the research fascinating. The gas release can actually change the oxygen levels in the air.
It can in two very dangerous ways. First, it can displace the oxygen. A heavy gas like propane can fill a low-lying area and just push all the breathable air out.
So you can walk into that invisible cloud.
And you'd just drop. You'd pass out from asphyxiation because there's physically no air to breathe, no warning. The other way is, in certain chemical reactions or leaks, you might have oxygen enrichment.
Which I assume makes everything burn faster, like blowing on a campfire.
It's like pouring gasoline on it. It turns regular materials into rocket fuel. A spark that would normally just fizzle out becomes a blowtorch. Cotton clothes can ignite almost spontaneously. Things that don't normally burn ferociously.
So you have this invisible stack of threats. It could be flammable, it could be toxic, it could be corrosive. The oxygen levels could be completely out of whack.
It's all of the above, potentially.
And into this environment, we send a drone.
We send a drone.
Which brings us to the hardware. The question everyone asks is, can a drone actually ignite a cloud? I mean, they're battery powered, they look pretty sealed up, lots of plastic. Can they really act as a flying match?
The verdict from, well, every credible source in our research stack is a hard, unequivocal yes.
No ambiguity there.
Zero. You have to remember, most off-the-shelf drones, the ones you buy at an electronics store, even the high-end prosumer ones costing 10 or 20 grand, they are not certified for hazardous locations. They are, for all intents and purposes, flying ignition sources.
Where does the spark actually come from, though? Is it just the battery?
It's everywhere. It's a whole system of potential failures. Start with the battery connectors. When a drone is flying, it's vibrating, it's pulling a heavy electrical load. Those connectors can micro-arc. A tiny spark, but it's enough.
Okay.
Then look at the ESCs, the electronic speed controllers. They regulate the power to the motors hundreds, even thousands of times a second. If one of them faults, it can spark. The brushless motors themselves, they get incredibly hot.
I felt how hot they get after a normal flight.
Right. They can get hot enough to reach the auto-ignition temperature of certain gases, no spark needed. The heat itself becomes the ignition source.
And I saw a term in the notes that sounded pretty intense. Triboelectric effect. What's that about?
That's static electricity. It's a huge one, and it's often overlooked. Think about the physics. You have rotors, usually made of plastic or carbon fiber, spinning at thousands of RPMs.
Yeah.
They are literally scrubbing against the air. If there is dust, smoke, or any kind of particulates in that air, that friction builds up a static charge on the props and on the airframe itself.
It's like rubbing a balloon on your hair, but at 5,000 RPM.
Exactly. Now imagine that drone all charged up with static electricity and it touches a grounded object like a metal railing or just discharges into a dense vapor cloud.
Zap.
Zap. That is your ignition event right there.
And on top of all of that, you're flying with a lithium polymer battery.
Which is, as we said, basically a chemical fire waiting to happen. If that battery fails, if it gets punctured in a crash or just overheats from the strain, it vents flammable electrolytes. It's a gas.
So you aren't just bringing a match.
You're bringing your own fuel to the fire. You've become part of the problem.
Okay, so we've established the drone can absolutely blow the place up. But earlier you mentioned the mantra, don't stir. Let's talk about the physics of stirring. The outline used this great analogy of a leaf blower versus a satellite.
That's the perfect way to visualize it. When you fly a drone at a hazmat scene, you have to decide, are you going to be a satellite or are you going to be a leaf blower?
And the satellite is the good guy here.
The satellite is the pro. You stay high, you stay far away, and you use a zoom lens. You are observing without interacting. You're gathering intelligence passively.
Yeah.
But if you get low,
You become a fan.
you become a very powerful, very indiscriminate fan. You are pushing a massive column of air straight down. That's your downwash. In a hazmat scene, that can be disastrous.
Give me an example.
Okay, imagine a heavy vapor cloud, say from a gasoline spill, and it's settling in a driveway. It's contained by the curb. It's stable. The wind isn't moving it.
And you fly over it at 20 feet to get a nice close-up shot of the tanker truck.
Your downwash hits that cloud like a fist and just spreads it. You push those invisible vapors into a basement window. You push them into a doorway of a nearby house. You push them into a culvert that leads directly to a creek.
So you've just taken a contained hazard and exposed people who were previously safe.
You've expanded the hot zone just by trying to film it. It's a catastrophic error.
And it's not just moving gas around, it's moving solids too.
Absolutely. Think about resuspending settled dust. If there's, say, a toxic powder on the ground from a spill and it has finally settled, you just come along and blow it right back into the air for all the responders to breathe.
And from a legal standpoint, from an investigation standpoint,
You are disturbing evidence. You're destroying the scene. Investigators need to see the debris field as it landed. The where it landed pattern is crucial for reconstructing the accident, for figuring out what failed. If you come in like a leaf blower and move it all, you've essentially just destroyed the crime scene.
there has to be a rule of thumb for this.
There is, and it was a really catchy one from the source material. If you can see stuff mist, smoke, dust, your downwash can change stuff.
Simple and effective. If you see movement in the cloud caused by your drone, you are too close. You are stirring the pot.
And you're failing the mission. Your primary job is to not make things worse.
So if the environment is this dangerous, surely there has to be specialized gear for it. I see the term intrinsically safe or HAZLOC thrown around a lot. What does that actually mean? Is it just a tougher drone?
No, and that's a common confusion. Intrinsically safe is a specific engineering term. It doesn't mean the drone is rugged or waterproof or can survive a crash. It means the electrical circuits inside are designed from the ground up to limit the thermal and electrical energy to a level below what is required to ignite a specific hazardous atmospheric mixture.
So even if it shorts out, it physically cannot produce a spark hot enough or a surface hot enough to cause an explosion.
Essentially, yes. It's a very complex design philosophy. It involves sealing components, potting electronics and epoxy resin, limiting voltage and current to minuscule levels. But here is the hard truth of the matter.
I'm sensing a but here.
Most popular inspection drones are not HAZLOC certified.
Really. Not even the big, expensive enterprise ones that look like they belong in a sci-fi movie.
Very, very few of them. The certification process is incredibly difficult and expensive. It involves testing every single component down to the resistors. And there are different standards. You've got class and division in the US, you've got zone systems in Canada and Europe.
So a drone might be certified for one type of gas, but not another?
Exactly. Or it might be safe for what they call a Zone 2 environment, where a flammable gas is rare and only exists for short periods, but it's a flying bomb in a Zone 1 environment, where that gas is likely to be present during normal operations.
It's incredibly specific.
It is. It's not a marketing term. It's a hardcore engineering and safety standard.
So what's a pilot to do? I mean, if you can't afford a $50,000 super specialized explosion-proof drone, do you just pack up and go home?
No, not at all. You use what the experts call the lowest risk tool ladder. It's a hierarchy of decision making, and you always start at the bottom rung, which is actually the safest.
And what's that?
Level 1 is your default best practice, standoff optics.
Be the satellite.
Be the satellite, exactly. You use a telephoto or a zoom lens, you stay hundreds of feet away, well outside any potential gas cloud, and you zoom in.
Yeah.
You get the data you need without ever introducing the risk of the drone itself. This is what 90% of missions should be.
Makes sense. What's level 2?
Level 2 is utilizing specialized sensors from outside the bubble. Things like a high-end thermal camera to see fluid levels in a tank, or optical gas imaging, OGI, which can actually make certain gas plumes visible.
So you're still keeping your...
You're still keeping your distance. You aren't swimming in the shark tank. You're just looking through the glass with special goggles.
And I'm guessing level 3 is where the specialized gear comes in.
Level 3 is when you use a certified Hazmat aircraft to actually enter the plume. These are niche, they're expensive, they're often heavy. You only use these if you absolutely must get inside the cloud to do something like take a direct air sample or check a specific valve that you can't see otherwise.
It's the last resort for aerial work.
It's a very specific tool for a very specific job. And then there's level 4.
Which is?
Level 4 is don't fly. Use a ground robot. Use a camera on a really long stick. Sometimes the best drone is actually a tank on treads. If the air is that rich with gas, you don't want anything with rotors anywhere near it, period.
This brings us to managing the space itself. You've mentioned the bubble a few times. The sources talk about the elastic bubble. I love that image. It sounds so dynamic.
It's the mental model you have to survive. In Hazmat, you have 3 basic zones. The hot zone is where the danger is, the warm zone is where you do decontamination, and the cold zone is where the command post is, where it's safe.
But those zones aren't just painted on the ground with chalk lines.
No, absolutely not. They are defined by the gas, by the wind, by the temperature, by the terrain.
And all of those things change constantly.
Constantly. So the elastic bubble concept means that the danger zone isn't static. It grows, it shrinks, it moves, and as one of the sources says, it grows faster than you can argue with it.
So how do you manage that? You can't just guess where the edge is.
You don't. You use the ERG, the Emergency Response Guidebook. It's the Bible for first responders. You look up the chemical, and it gives you initial isolation distances. It tells you how big to make your first bubble.
Okay, that gives you a starting point.
It does. But critically, as a drone pilot, you need 2 boundaries in your mind. The hard boundary and the soft boundary.
The hard boundary is the literal police tape.
Yes. The yellow tape. That is the official do not cross line established by the incident commander. You never, ever cross that. But as a pilot, you need a soft boundary. That's your own personal buffer zone well outside the hard one.
Why?
Because if the wind shifts suddenly, that hard boundary is going to move. If you are flying right on the edge of the tape and a big gust comes through, you're suddenly inside the hot zone. You've lost your margin.
You need a margin for error. For the unexpected.
You have to be conservative. And before you even think about lifting off, there's a checklist from the research called the 5 gates. It seemed like a go-no-go system to enforce this buffer and make sure you've thought everything through.
Let's walk through the 5 gates. It feels like a launch sequence.
It basically is. Gate 1, authority. Are you actually asked to be there? Have you been requested by the incident commander? Don't self-dispatch. Ever. Gate 2, zones. Do you know where the bubble is? Have you visually identified the hard boundary, and have you mentally set your own safer soft boundary?
Got it.
Gate 3, wind and terrain. Which way is the wind blowing? Is the gas a heavy gas that's going to pool in that ditch over there? Is the wind pushing it towards that school a mile away? You have to understand the flow.
Makes sense.
Gate 4, air ops. This is a big one. Is there a medical helicopter coming in? Are there news choppers in the area? Is aerial firefighting on its way? Is the sky clear for you?
We aren't just worried about gas. We're worried about other aircraft.
Exactly. And finally, Gate 5, ignition control. Is your launch spot itself clean of vapors? Are there sources of ignition around you? If you fail any one of those gates, you don't fly, you stand down.
I want to zoom in on Gate 4 for a second, Air Ops.
Yeah.
Because in a major disaster, that sky gets crowded really fast.
Absolutely. It's a huge point of conflict. You might have news choppers trying to get their shot, medevac trying to land to pick up a patient, fire suppression planes or helicopters coming in to do water drops. If you are freelancing in that airspace, you are a menace.
A danger to the entire operation.
You could ground the entire aerial firefighting operation just by being there. If a medevac pilot sees a drone, their procedure might be to abort the landing until you are gone.
And that delay could cost a life.
That's a life or death consequence caused by your toy. It's that serious.
Which leads perfectly into our next section, professionalism. The sources make a really big distinction between the command-ready mindset and the camera-ready amateur.
Yeah, this is what separates the pros from the people who just happen to own expensive drones. The amateur shows up thinking about, their exposure settings, cinematic pans, and getting that epic shot for the 6 o'clock news.
And the pro.
The pro shows up thinking about decision loops. They're thinking about the incident commander's problems.
There's a 3-minute proscript detailed in the notes. This is how a professional pilot introduces themselves to the incident commander. And it's vastly different from just showing up and saying, hey, check out my cool drone.
It's brilliant in its brevity and its focus. Imagine the scene. It's chaotic, there are sirens, the incident commander, or IC, is completely overwhelmed with information. You walk up, you wait to be acknowledged, and you ask 3 simple questions.
What are they?
Who is my point of contact for this operation? What is the one decision you need help with in the next 10 minutes? And where is the hard boundary?
You aren't asking, where can I fly or where can I get a cool shot? You're asking, what problem can I solve for you right now?
Precisely. You are establishing yourself as a resource, not a tourist. And from that moment, you enter what the pros call the delta cycle.
Delta meaning change.
Exactly. The cycle is plan for 60 seconds, fly for 10 minutes, deliver for 10 minutes, and then you repeat.
Wait, why only fly for 10 minutes? Most of these drones can fly for 30, maybe 40 minutes.
Because information ages. And an incident commander is incredibly busy. They can't wait 30 minutes for your update.
They need information in near real time.
They need it now. You aren't flying a long 30-minute surveillance mission. You are doing short, rapid sorties to bring back fresh intel. You pop up, you get the specific data they asked for, you come back down, and you deliver it. It's all about tempo.
And while you're up there for those 10 minutes, you're not just flying around randomly. You're practicing what the sources call 6-shot discipline.
This is all about consistency. It's about generating data, not just pretty pictures. Amateurs fly around looking for something that looks interesting. Pros take the same 6 shots every single time they go up.
What are the 6 shots?
A wide establishing shot for context, a perimeter shot tracing the hard boundary, a staging shot showing where all the resources are parked, access routes showing clear paths in and out, the hazard source itself from a safe distance, and the trend shot.
The trend shot sounds like the most scientific part of this.
It is arguably the most valuable piece of data you can provide. It's simple. You put the drone in the exact same spot in the sky. Same GPS coordinates, the same altitude, same camera angle, and you take a photo every 10 or 15 minutes.
So you're essentially creating a scientific, repeatable time-lapse.
Exactly. This allows the experts back at the command post to toggle between the photos and see with certainty exactly how the smoke plume is changing or if the chemical spill is widening. You can't see that kind of subtle change if you're constantly zooming around trying to get a dramatic angle. You need a baseline.
Boring is good. Boring is science.
Boring saves lives. If you are flying sporadically, you are just generating noise. If you fly with discipline, you are generating actionable data.
And then comes the deliverable. You land after your 10-minute flight. You aren't just handing the IC an SD card full of 4K video, right?
Oh, please, no. Never do that. No incident commander has time to scrub through 20 minutes of 4K video on a laptop in the glare of the sun. They'll throw you off the scene.
So what do you give them?
You give them the incident snapshot. It's a single page. A PDF or maybe just a JPEG you can text to their phone. 6 to 12 clearly labeled still photos, timestamps on everything, and most importantly, the Delta update.
And what has changed update?
Right. You never just tell them, I see smoke. They know there's smoke. You tell them the smoke has shifted 10 degrees north since the last update and is now moving towards the highway.
Actionable.
That's actionable. The liquid has now crossed the containment ditch. The fire has jumped the fire break on the west side. That is information that helps them make decisions.
Okay, let's apply this professional framework to some real-world scenarios. The notes list 3 very distinct types of disasters. Let's start with scenario A. A tanker rollover on the highway. It's leaking some kind of unknown product. What's the play?
The primary goal here is twofold: perimeter integrity and leak check. First things first, you do not fly over the source.
Don't fly through the plume.
Never. You set up an offset orbit on the upwind side of the incident.
So you're circling off to the side, letting the wind carry any potential vapors away from you, and you're looking in.
Exactly. You use your zoom level 1 on the gear ladder to try and read the placards on the side of the truck. You're looking for that diamond-shaped sign with a 4-digit UN number.
That code that tells firefighters exactly what chemical it is from their ERG.
That's the one. If you can read that UN number with a zoom lens from 300 feet away without sending a firefighter in a full suit into the ditch to read it with binoculars, you've just won the day.
You've provided critical, life-saving information without risking a single human life.
You've created instant shared awareness for everyone on scene, all from the safe zone. That's a huge win.
Okay, scenario B, a rail derailment. This is huge. It could be dozens of cars. Public interest is high. The bubble is massive. What's the mission here?
Here, the challenge is often logistics and public scrutiny. You aren't just looking at the wrecked cars. Your mission is site logistics intelligence. You're looking at the roads around the wreck.
So you're mapping the access for the heavy equipment.
Exactly. Where can we park the heavy cranes? Which roads are blocked by the train cars themselves? Where can we set up the decontamination corridor? You're the advanced scout for the entire logistical operation that's about to unfold.
So less about the chemistry, more about the geometry of the scene.
Precisely. And crucially, you're also documenting the scene before the cleanup crews come in and start moving things, which alters the evidence. And because it's a huge derailment, you have media helicopters to worry about. So your airspace coordination gate 4 from our checklist becomes your primary job. You might be the only one with a clear view of both the ground traffic and the air traffic.
Okay, last one. Scenario C, an industrial plant fire.
Yeah.
This is a mess of smoke, extreme heat, and the risk of structural collapse.
The tactic here is called exposure mapping. The fire chief knows the building is burning. That's obvious. What they need to know is what is next to the building that's on fire.
What's in danger of catching fire next?
Right. Is there a giant propane cage just behind that wall that's about to collapse? Are there other chemical tanks nearby? Is the wind pushing embers toward that residential neighborhood just over the fence?
So you are predicting the fire's future path for them.
You are their eye in the sky. You're providing the chessboard view so the commander can move the pieces, the fire trucks, the crews, to cut the fire off before it spreads. Notice how none of these scenarios
Involve flying into the fire.
Right. None of them involve flying into the fire or into the chemical cloud. It's all about context. It's about what surrounds the disaster.
Context is king. Now let's talk about the ugly side of this. How to get fired. Or worse. Section 5 in our research covers safety, emergency protocols, and hygiene. What's the absolute fastest way to get kicked off a scene?
Freelancing, hands down. Showing up without an invite. If you just hear something on the scanner and you pop up your drone because you want to help, you are a liability, a menace.
You're not helping.
You are actively hurting the operation. You don't know the communications plan. You don't know the hazards. You don't know the airspace plan. You are a rogue element.
And the other big one is breaking bubble discipline.
Oh, yeah. That's the ego pilot. The one who thinks, I just need to get a little closer for the shot, and they drift inside that hard perimeter. Now the safety officer has to stop managing a major fire to manage you.
You've become a distraction.
You've become the #1 hazard on scene. That's an instant grounding. You're done.
But let's say you do everything right. You follow the rules, you're a pro, but technology fails you. The drone loses a motor, the battery dies unexpectedly, and it goes down inside the hot zone. What is the protocol?
The drone down protocol is simple and it is heartbreaking. Let it go.
You don't run in to get it, even if it's a $15,000 or $20,000 piece of equipment.
Absolutely not. The golden rule, and there is no exception to this, is if it goes down in the hot zone, it stays there. It is now considered hazardous waste. It might even be part of the official evidence of the scene.
So you just write it off as a total loss.
You have to treat it as an equipment sacrifice. You only retrieve it if, and only if, the Hazmat team plans a specific, dedicated recovery mission for it, which could be hours or even days later after the scene is safe.
You never risk a human life for a drone.
Never. A drone is replaceable. You are not. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the only professional choice.
That makes perfect sense. But let's say the drone comes back safely. It lands in the cold zone, mission accomplished. You're done, right? Pack up the gear and go home.
Not even close. Now comes a critical step. post-mission hygiene. Your drone has been flying through air that might contain corrosive vapors, sticky particulates, or chemical residues. Just because you didn't fly into the main cloud doesn't mean the air was perfectly clean.
The sources mention a sniff test, but they do it with a big warning.
Yeah, you have to be really careful here. You don't grab the drone and stick your nose right in the motors and take a big whiff. You waft the air toward you, gently. You're checking for any obvious chemical odors like solvents or acids. But really, you should just assume it's dirty until proven clean.
And there are 4 levels of Deacon mentioned in the research.
Right. It's a scale. Level 0 is it's perfectly clean, no issues. Level 3 is confirmed hazardous contamination. If you hit level 3, maybe there's visible oily residue on the lens or a strong, persistent chemical smell. That drone might need to be disposed of as hazardous waste.
You have to throw it away.
You might have to. But even for the lower levels, you have to clean it properly. And you have to be extremely careful with how you transport it from the scene.
The dirty transport. This is something I had not even considered.
It's huge. You don't just throw a chemically contaminated drone onto the backseat of your car where your kids are going to sit tomorrow. You use a dedicated, sealed plastic tote. You put a tag on it that says quarantine or needs Deacon. You transport it back to your lab or shop and clean it there, wearing proper PPE like gloves and eye protection.
It really emphasizes that the invisible threat travels with you. It doesn't stay at the scene.
It does. It's sticky particulates on the propeller blades. It's a film of acid on the camera lens. If you don't clean that acid off, it will slowly eat away at the wiring and the electronics. Your next flight could be its last. Or worse, you bring those toxins into your home or your office. It's just not worth the risk.
So we've covered the invisible stack of hazards, the tool ladder, the elastic bubble, and the professional mindset. It's a lot to unpack, but it all seems to boil down to a very specific philosophy.
It really does, the elite operator mindset.
Can you walk us through that hierarchy of priorities again? It seems so important.
It's everything. Priority number 1, safety. Always. Your safety, the team's safety, the public safety. Priority number 2, decision support. Are you providing information that helps the commander make a better, faster, safer decision?
Right.
Priority number 3, documentation, getting that evidentiary record for later. And then priority number 4, a distant fourth, is cool footage.
In fact, I think the notes say cool footage never.
Ideally, yeah. If your footage looks like something out of a Michael Bay movie with explosions and low-angle passes, you are probably flying unsafely. You are probably stirring the pot.
The drone pilot isn't there to be the star of the show.
No, not at all. They are a tool, a sensor. Their job is to provide clarity under immense pressure. And sometimes the most professional move a pilot can make is to look at the wind, look at the hazard, look at the situation, and say, no, we don't fly today.
That takes a lot of confidence. To be the one to say no to the fire chief, because you know the risks better than they do when it comes to the aircraft and the environment.
That is what being an expert is. It's not about knowing what you can do with the technology. It's about having the wisdom to know what you should do.
I think that's a really powerful place to land this. In a world where we are just obsessed with data, more angles, more live streams, the real skill isn't in just gathering more of it.
No, not at all. It's gathering the right data cleanly and without becoming part of the disaster yourself. It's about precision. And it all comes down to one question.
Which is?
Are you flying a camera or are you flying a decision support tool?
That is the question for all of us, especially our listeners, to take away. Next time you see a drone at a disaster scene on the news, don't ask if they got a cool video. Ask if they helped someone make a better decision.
And if they managed to do it without stirring the pot.
Look, but don't stir. Thanks for diving in with us. Stay safe out there.
Stay safe. That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.